Thai Airways retired its Airbus A380 fleet in the early 2020s after an, no doubt ambitious endeavour to operate the world's largest passenger plane right across its network. The move, which made headlines back then, hardly came as a shock. This was an airline at the end of the day, with the odds stacked right against it, with internal problems and an operating climate that simply didn't favour the world's largest passenger plane. However, after boldly committing to the plane in the early 2000s, why did the airline abandoned the quad-engine Super Jumbo? Thai Airways initially placed orders for 6 Airbus A380s in the mid-2000s, with at the time this commitment seeing the airline join a roster of other major international airlines that viewed the widebody as a new era for global air travel, aiming to address factors such as pent-up demand and even travel into slot-constrained airports. The A380 was Airbus's offering to compete with the 747, while also fending off wherever possible emerging twin-engine competition, providing also an unparalleled onboard experience. For Thai Airways, the A380 seemed like it was the ideal plane for their home of Bangkok, to become a true powerhouse in the Asian and broader global industry, to serve long-haul markets such as London and beyond. The airline also believed the A380's size and range would support the hub-and-spoke model that it was operating out of from its home, allowing it to consolidate traffic, which was arguably a core selling point that Airbus was pitching to its own customers. However, Thai Airways only acquired a minimal number of units. Its fleet size is relatively small compared to other airlines as well, and despite the small number of operational challenges, they were more than present. Why not delve into those very challenges when it came to flying the Airbus A380, because they are worth discussing and a pivotal factor as to why an airline may rid themselves of operating with such a plane. While the A380 delivered on its promise of having unparalleled capacity, Thai Airways quickly became one of the many airlines that experienced network challenges upon receiving the aircraft. Coming with a hefty price tag was the subsequent burden that many airlines felt when it came to actually filling the world's largest passenger plane on a continued basis, to turn a profit operating it. This wasn't a problem, however, for airlines such as Emirates and British Airways. However, other international carriers, while significant in their own right, didn't have the same market demand or backing to stack up against the true greats of our industry. Moreover, many of these carriers were often relying on peak travel seasons, and filling the planes during off-peak seasons became a true challenge. Moreover, the A380's size was only ever going to limit the number of airports actually capable of handling the plane, which would then go on to restrict the flexibility that Thai Airways had. Operational costs were another significant challenge for Thai Airways that plagued the broader adoption of this plane. The 4-engine configuration would always make this a less fuel-efficient aircraft type for ever so specific customers. As next-generation aircraft became more present within our industry, Thai Airways simply began seeing the A380 as an even less attractive option for its day-to-day network. The disadvantages at this point were outweighing the advantages. However, there was one thing that really did kill the Airbus A380 at the company: the COVID-19 global pandemic. We know it devastated our global aviation industry, taking no prisoners with it, and Thai Airways was no exception. As borders closed, international travel demand plummeted. The downturn, however, was particularly brutal for airlines that were really dependent on long-haul travel. While some domestic markets operated at a fraction of their normal self, the international market was halted to basically zero. And typically, Thai Airways' robust operation was thrown into disarray, as they relied heavily on their long-haul flying efforts to power their broader business. Furthermore, all this occurred during a relatively challenging period for the airline itself. Even before the pandemic, there were earmarks of financial strain that was hurting its position. The A380, being already a high-cost aircraft, very quickly worked its way into becoming more of a liability than an asset in a market that simply couldn't justify a plane of its stature and an airline that couldn't make the aircraft work for them. Thai Airways were forced to get radical as their financial position worsened. The focus was to stay afloat as a business and preserve the assets that they had. For an aircraft that wasn't deemed favourable and realistically could be axed, the A380 was one of those planes that they said goodbye to as part of downsizing. Following, you have to also remember the company entering a restructuring process. This really a last resort to try and restructure and improve the business to solidify itself and give it a chance chance at surviving in the future. By 2020, Thai Airways, like many airlines, had grounded its entire A380 fleet, but maybe unlike some of your other leading companies that really championed the A380, Thai Airways didn't express any intention of returning this plane to service, instead trying to prioritize its finances across the long term. So did the global pandemic play a role? Yes, but there were certainly arguments that something like this was in the pipeline for ages, as the company really assessed its overall fleet and determined what was going to be required for the future. The A380 always had a grey cloud above it. The pandemic allowed them a way out. In 2021, they would confirm that they would sell 6 of their A380s as generally part of restructuring efforts and to try and generate revenue for an asset that was no longer fit to fly across its network. The move reflected immediate financial pressure and strategic shifts internally at the carrier, as greater focus was placed on streamlining for the future and ensuring the company's survival into future decades. Selling the A380 fleet, however, was no simple task. Given the type's operational constraints, the ongoing preference for new aircraft, the market for the second-hand A380 was limited. Nonetheless, Thai Airways pressed forward, believing that for airlines that still had a place for this aircraft, their units could be stripped for valuable parts to generate cash. The complexity of flying these planes out of the country was also highlighted as a roadblock. As we see, however, sometimes when an aircraft is retired, it's not necessarily always out. Interestingly, in 2022, reports emerged that Thai Airways was considering reactivating its A380s as international demand rebounded. According to Flight Global, the airline was evaluating the potential benefits of bringing the Super Jumbo back into service, especially for some of its routes that were considered to be more high demand. However, this idea was ultimately shelved, to not the surprise of many. Industry analysts speculated that the costs of reactivating and maintaining the A380 fleet outweighed the potential benefits. Instead, Thai Airways focused on its more versatile wide-body aircraft, such as the 350 and 787, which would allow it to remain in a more stable financial position amid a very turbulent period. By 2023, Thai Airways had really retired the A380 fleet and certainly begun the sale process, ending their relationship with the type. While the A380 offered high capacity and the promise of comfort through a spacious cabin, it always had its relevant limitations that meant it didn't work out for some operators. Thai Airways never seemed all that fond of the A380. However, factors such as the emergence of the global pandemic only accelerated the proceedings when you also consider the financial struggles that they were encountering during this period as well. Therefore, the A380 with Thai Airways forever remains, you'd say, a bit of a mismatch, and rather a what could have been scenario rather than one that was actually realised. Thai Airways will not be the only airline that saw something very similar, and it certainly remains a tale that you've got to be careful when purchasing aircraft. Either a plane may not work out, or it can throw you into turmoil financially. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you have any fond memories of when Thai Airways were flying this plane? Drop it down below. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you in a couple of days for more industry analysis right back here on GlobeTrotting.
And we'll fly.